I want to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Governance Subcommittee of the OPDC. We have a relatively short agenda. I think we can get it done in an hour, although the timing on the agenda may end up being adjusted. First thing I want to do is introduce Mara Hoagland, who is new at OPDC. She is the staff person who's going to be supporting the commission at its meetings and our subcommittees at our meetings. And she's a good point of contact for people who need to communicate with us or want information. So welcome, Mara. I see you're muted with your face not available, but I know that you're here. There you are. Good to see you. The first thing on the agenda is an update about the Audit Committee charter. We have a draft out for consideration, and Rob, this is you. Want to give us a report?
Yeah, I don't have much on this. We've been trying to get the audit committee together again, and we've had to delay this and reschedule this several times. We were supposed to have met earlier this month, and I think we've kicked it out to October 1, Eric. Was that right? I don't know if you've got that on your calendar. And I haven't.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and since our last governance committee, I have not been involved in any significant. I've been in contact with Scott a couple of times, but no substantive changes to the last draft. Eric, do you have any other information on that? Have you been talking to Scott?
It's been a few weeks. It's been since mid-August. There were some changes in addition to the changes this subcommittee was recommending, but I don't think they were terribly substantive. It was more clarifying in nature.
Yeah, there was a couple of definitional issues I think that Eric had brought up that him and Scott were working on hammering out. So what I'm hoping is that at the October committee audit committee meeting, our quarterly meeting, we'll be able to go. Oops, excuse me.
Do you think we'll be able to have a charter by the end of the calendar year?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I think it's actually pretty close. I mean, it's just a matter of getting everyone together and finalizing these details.
I think it would be really important to have something on the books before we transition to the executive branch.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
We will get that done.
Fantastic. Thank you. So some of the folks who are attending, who are not commissioners, may have looked at the documents that were posted on the commission website earlier than this morning. They were draft documents, and posting the final documents evidently fell through the cracks. They have been posted this morning. So they're available now. Starting with the next thing on the agenda, the ED evaluation process. The only change to the draft documents that were posted is the calendar. And that was my mistake. The calendar that was in the draft documents mistakenly put this committee's meeting date instead of the commission meeting date. So the final document has a new calendar. So the commission will approve the review process on September 18th. The evaluation will, a letter will go out to potential evaluators on the 19th, and they'll have until the 30th to respond. The evaluation will go out on October 1st, and they'll have to the 15th to respond. A progress report will be at the October commission meeting, and then the board chair and the human resources director will present the survey results at an executive session, and it will be an executive session because it deals with personnel issues. So that's the only change from the draft document so far. Rob, do you have any issues about that? Questions?
No, that's clear. Thank you for that.
Okay. The other thing to discuss about the executive director evaluation process, and I'm sorry that we don't have a quorum yet to discuss that, is that a number of us have received emails or phone calls from stakeholders objecting to Eric Dietrich being listed among the evaluators for the executive director. And the reason that Eric is listed, and I note that he has left the subcommittee meeting at this point to make it easier for us to discuss this. The reason he is on the list of evaluators is that the executive director protocol says that people who are on the executive team and are direct reports to the executive director should be evaluators in this process. And Eric is on the executive team and directly reports to the executive director. He has, since this commission has been in existence on January 1st. As I understand it, based on communications with me, the reason some people object to him being an evaluator is because of the report that was made after investigation into behavior that Eric was involved in a number of years ago under a different executive director and a different commission. And so I felt the need to raise those objections today at this subcommittee and get this subcommittee's sense of whether his name should be eliminated as an evaluator. The only people here to discuss it, Rob, are you and me.
Yep. As long as Eric remains on the executive team, he should be included in this. If he is no longer on the executive team, he should not be included in this evaluation.
So what I hear you saying is that if he is no longer on the executive team by October 1st, he should be taken off?
That would be my position because he would no longer fit the criteria of individuals who should be included in this executive director's review.
Even though he has been a direct report and on the executive team since January, and that is the period of time he would be reviewing.
Yes, yes.
Okay. We have no quorum, and so we can't take a vote on this.
But excuse, if I may,
Yeah.
Susan, I did have one more comment, and I apologize. I probably didn't raise this the first time or two that we had looked at this, looking at the folks who will be doing the review. I'm looking at parties in interest. You have lawyers with law firm contracts. Those two are great. I would like to see a law firm that does not do almost 100% or exclusively public defense, sort of a mixed caseload, because there are a significant number of those providers in the state, and there's no one on this list that meets that. I know Jack and John do some retained work, obviously, but primarily they do public defense work, and that's what they're known for. So, the other thing is there's no one here from Washington County, which is the second largest county, and it has a mixed unit. And so Washington County also has a couple of law firms that do a significant amount of retained. And if there were to be someone added to this, I think that would fill both of those, what I see as holes
Okay,
in these
And
reports. So I'll just throw that out there.
right. I don't have any problem with that personally. Maybe you could, I don't know who those law firms are. I could find out from staff, or you could tell me.
Yeah, I could shoot you an email, or I could, whatever you want to do is fine.
Yeah, we'll work that out. I don't have any
Yeah.
problem with
Okay.
that. I see the other as being more controversial, and I'm not sure how to handle that with only two of us here. I understand the complaints. I understand your position. What makes me uncomfortable is that the period that is being evaluated is the period from January 1st to now. And Eric has worked closely with the executive director during that period, and I'm sure has some important insights about the issues that are listed on this evaluation. So
Yeah,
um,
I mean, I get that. The flip side is if for whatever reason Eric is not on the executive team, his responses may be affected by that departure.
okay.
And you already have one, two, you got how many people on executive team? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So you'd be down to 4, but you also have the 2 direct reports within the agency. So
Well, that's a good point. I hadn't thought I mean, I assume you are suggesting that his leaving the executive team would not be 100% voluntary, and so any resentment that he might feel would affect his review. Is that your point?
yes, that is possible. I mean, I do not know. But that's when I have people leave my unemployment, even if they do it voluntarily, sometimes they're not that thrilled about it. So that would be a concern. Now, if there are only 3 people on this executive team and it would go down to 2, I would have maybe a difference of opinion, and I would be thinking more along the lines of, I think, what you're initially thinking. But with this many people on the team already, having one person not being able to respond may not unnecessarily skew the results, I guess.
I think the way to take care of this, because we have the executive team and we have the direct review, so maybe the way to take care of this, and again, I wish we had a quorum because we can't take an official vote, but since I wrote the memo, I can amend it and explain to the commission how we got here. Maybe what I should put, maybe what we should do in the memo is say, executive team and direct reports as of October 1st. And not list any names.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
because
the
you may have other
problem-
changes. Yeah, you may have other changes as well.
We
Yeah.
may have other changes as well if there are going to be changes, and I have no
Yeah.
idea whether that's happening, but the only problem then is if it gets down to only 2 people, but I doubt that there'll be an executive team with only 2 people.
Yeah.
That would be unusual. The only other problem I see with that is, no, I don't think that'll be a problem. The survey, as it notes in the memo, will be sent out. The person who will administer it is the head of HR. It'll be done with a confidential, dedicated survey monkey. She needs to have time to set that up, even though it won't go active until after the commission votes on this. But she can set up the questions, and plugging in who gets the survey won't take much time. So I think that'll be okay.
Okay.
All right, I think that's a good solution. Is there anything else we want to say about that? If I know that Jennifer is planning to come to the commission meeting, and let me, if she does come, we can let her know what happened. I am going to email Eric and ask him to come back. Mara, perhaps you could get Eric back if you would, because we need him for the next thing on the agenda.
Yes, we'll do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right, the KPM measures. Hi, Eric. Thanks for coming back. The KPM measures. So what this is the Department of Administrative Services and the Legislative Fiscal Office require this to be done. And this commission best practices that we all filled out a survey on, and some staff filled out a survey on, is one of 15 best practices that the agency has to do. This is the only one the commissioners have to weigh in on. The rest are all things for the staff of the agency to weigh in on. And what happens is that the agency has to get this all in by October 1st. Kimberly Freeman is in charge of filling out the template that DAS and LFO make available in this system. And the responses are some numeric responses and some textual responses are also possible. The most important thing is for the agency to get the results in by October 1st. Because if we don't get the results in by October 1st, that's a problem for the budget process. My understanding is that meeting that October 1st deadline is often more important than what the surveys actually reveal, because they're supposed to be mainly for us to engage every year in self-evaluation so we can figure out how to improve. Kim will report on all of the at the September commission meeting, and I will report on this memo and what this committee has done with it, if anything. The fact that we and staff were asked to respond to a survey about this particular best practices evaluation is new and a real improvement over the way it was done in the past. In the past, staff filled this out, even though it was supposed to be the commission evaluating itself. So the fact that we actually participated in the evaluation is an improvement over prior practices, and I'm glad to see that. So what resulted from the survey is in that, unfortunately, 14-page memo that I made available. Have you had a chance to take a look at that, Rob? You're muted.
Yeah, you mean the one that was in the materials here?
Yeah, the one
Yep.
that says key performance measures best practice survey.
Yep.
You might as well stay unmuted. There's only two of us.
Yeah, I'll just give him my thumbs up when I
just
say
sort
it.
of discussing things, right?
Yeah.
So as a committee, I think we have a couple of things we need to decide, although we can't formally decide anything since we don't have a quorum. So we can have some input into what Kim reports. She can report, and I had a brief meeting with her and Eric last week to talk about how this has to work. She can just report statistics, And if she just reports statistics, she could choose to just report the commissioner responses, or she could report statistics based on the commissioner and staff responses, both. Or she could report statistics and also textual comments. And one possibility that seemed to make some sense, at least to me, was that on the questions where the responses don't show that we're doing a wonderful job, where they're down toward the 50% area, we could add explanations about why we think we need improvement, or why we think that the responses are as low as they are. And so in the memo that I made available, I made some attempt at explanations, as I understood them, and also suggestions for what we might do to improve, the takeaways that we might do to improve. And we can certainly tweak that draft memo. Right now, the memo just comes to the governance subcommittee. I have to put together, or we have to put together as a committee, a memo to give to the whole commission. So we can jettison this memo, we can tweak this memo, we can do what we want. So do you have any opinions about this?
Well, I read the whole thing, and a couple of observations. I don't know if I have a firm opinion on a lot of this.
Okay.
One observation is when we include commission's textual responses, with this limited number of people responding, people who do respond tend to get overweighted, I think.
The textual ones?
Yeah. So a strong opinion in a textual response. You know, if you have 100 people and 6 people say, I really don't like the color of the front door, right? You know, that's probably an issue. But when you have 9 people and one person says, I don't like the color of the front door, that might just be an outlier.
Right.
So, but I also like, I mean, I do like to read the textual responses, and I think we're all pretty responsible in offering them with some thought. So part of this, I'm just talking out loud a little bit, Susan, because I do like them, but I worry that they get overweighted.
So when we send this into DAS and LGO, or legislative fiscal, we can give them our own textual responses. We don't have to send them the textual responses in the survey. So the textual responses we send in with the report can be our, meaning the commission's, evaluation of what we see here, right?
Yeah.
So that's a separate issue from sending in the textual responses to the survey.
Got it.
And I agree with you that, I mean, I've looked at a lot of survey things with textual responses, and I absolutely agree with you that the squeaky wheels tend to get over emphasized in the textual responses. So I think I would prefer either not including textual responses when it gets turned in, or including the commission's textual responses explaining what we see in the numeric responses and what we are going to be doing to deal with it.
So would we then, after we get the data, are you saying potentially at a commission meeting, we'd say there's these three issues These three questions, we had some questions or issues or responses to, we think are important to talk about and contextualize these.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think one thing that's important to point out to DAS and the LFO is that we are evaluating a commission that has been in existence only since January.
Yeah.
And that some of the responses, maybe especially staff responses, could be based on the behavior of the previous commission.
Mm.
Since staff have been working with the previous commission, not just us. So I think it's important to re-emphasize that. I don't think we should be blamed for a lot of the errors of the previous commission. Because I think we tried to correct a lot of them. At least that's my sense. So I think that's one important thing to point out. I think another important thing to point out is where we agree or what we think we need to do to improve. Now, maybe that's something that we should keep to ourselves, or maybe that's something we should include as a response. I don't know. Do you have an opinion?
I think we should try and keep this particular report pretty data focused.
Okay.
Because that's the questions that we're asking people for data. And I would keep it on data and analysis as much as possible. You can do some interpretation of analysis, but maybe not forecasting or advising. That's my opinion on this particular one.
Okay. I'm throwing out suggestions just so I get somebody else's sense of this. Except
no, that's you're making me think, so I appreciate that.
Far it's just me, and I don't trust just me. I mean,
no, I get it. I hadn't thought about these questions. Like,
we're supposed to be a committee.
no, that's great. I appreciate the help and making me think a little bit here.
All right. So this has to be in by October 1st. So the September commission has to decide what to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so our job is to figure out what to communicate to them. They haven't seen this memo. This memo just went to our, well, they can see it if they want to log on and get it, but this memo just went to our subcommittee. So what to send to the whole commission for its meeting in 2 weeks. And again, I can throw out some suggestions. I mean, one suggestion would be to just send them this memo. One suggestion would be to send them the numeric responses and the textual responses. One would be to just send them the numerical responses. One would be to send them the numerical and textual responses with our, in other words, two people's suggestions. We have to make it clear that there wasn't a quorum. With what, if any, textual comments to include when we submit the report. So those are various ways to go. Oh, Jennifer, hello.
All right.
Nice to see you.
I think I missed a comment just coming in, sorry.
Yeah, so we have been discussing the key performance measures, and I don't know if you've had a chance to look at, no, the memo. All right. We were just at the phase of trying to decide what to send the whole commission. There are numeric responses, there are textual responses, there are my observations that are in this memo that I sent to the subcommittee. And then there are observations that this committee and or the whole commission could make. What has to be turned into DAS and LFO is a report that includes numerics and can include textual responses. So that's kind of a summary of what we've talked about for the last several minutes. Rob, do you have a sense of which way, what we send to the whole commission about this?
Yeah, well, excuse me, I think that the work you put into this memo is very valuable for people. And you're not particularly making any conclusions, you're simply making observations and your takeaways. So I think that's valuable information for the commission to have. So I don't object. I wouldn't object to this whole thing going to the commission since we've seen it anyway on this government subcommittee, as has the public. So I have no objection at all, frankly, to this memo going to the commission and then the commission taking the next step as to what goes to LFO from there.
Do we want, I'm good with that. I did put a lot of time into this. So,
no, it's very good. Thank you.
Do we want to make any recommendations to the commission? And based on what you said before, I imagine one recommendation would be not to send in the textual comments that were made in the survey.
I would recommend to the commission, just my first reaction after reading this and based on some of your questions and observations, is to recommend that we send the data in, which is the numbers, because I think that tells a story. And the textual responses and our personal observations not be made at least a formal part of this to the LFO, but obviously it's available to them should they choose to look at it. But I think giving them textual responses overlays more information than this data. I really believe in data to help us move forward in a lot of ways. Informed by experiences, personal experience as well, obviously. But for LFO purposes, they're looking at some data as to KPMs and where we're at on that stuff.
And by data, you mean the results from both commissioners and staff?
Yes, I would give them both.
Yeah, me too.
Because it tells two different stories, right? So yes.
But do you agree that one comment that should be sent in to DAS and LFO is reminding them that we're a new commission?
Well, yes, I think that is right, because this is going to be pulled from their personal experiences with the commission, not for the past 6 months, but potentially for the past 6 years or something, or at least probably the past 2 years at least.
Okay,
with our executive director. Yeah.
Some kind of comment like that. And then so that works for me. And Jennifer, I don't know if you're up to speed enough to weigh in on this.
I mean, I was just gonna say, like, that's kind of typical information as part of review. So I think that makes sense to me. I think anything that is kind of best practices that are implemented in other kind of review processes, we should follow as well.
Okay, great. And by the way, once you have a chance to get home, I hope you had a great time away.
I did. It was amazing. Now I'm just digging through my hundreds of emails. So
I'll bet you are. And congratulations, by the way, again.
Thank you.
Your wedding. Once you have a chance to take a deep breath, if you read this and want to make any suggestions or comments, send them to Mara, who you will have a chance to meet, and she's great, and she'll make them available to the rest of us.
Perfect.
So other than coming up with this to the commission and what I'll do is I'll do this memo and I'll add to it at the beginning that these are our recommendations for what to send.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That said, a lot of the information here, and I think this is what I tried to put in what I called takeaways, are things that we as a committee might want to start talking about in terms of self-improvement within things that we can do to help ourselves as a commission improve. And so it may be that we should put a discussion about some of these takeaways either now for our own use or on a future committee meeting. And given that Jennifer hasn't had a chance yet to really look at this, and that Addie had an emergency and couldn't be at the committee meeting today, what I'd like to suggest is that on a future subcommittee agenda, we put some of these takeaways for discussion. And if either of you have any additional takeaways to add, again, if you let Mara know what those are, I'll add them to the agenda for a future meeting. Does that work for both of you?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else either of you want to say about the key performance measures? Eric, is there anything you want to add in about the key performance measures?
No, I'm glad we did it in a more thoughtful manner this time with respect to the surveying. And yeah, we have the commission meeting next week for the full commission to take a look at the results.
All right. We are going to end this committee meeting before 10 o'clock or before 11 o'clock because we're on to new business. And the only piece of new business I have other than what we just discussed in terms of future meetings is there have been some suggestions about ways that we need to amend the bylaws that we adopted in, I think it was February or March. And so at a future meeting, we might want to talk about potential updates to the bylaws. And a goal might be, and I think a goal should be, to have potential bylaw updates as an action item in the December commission meeting. So yeah, Rob, you seem like you want to say something.
Yeah, that's fine. And because we just adopted this pretty much wholesale brand new bylaws, I figured there'd be some changes or some requests to make some amendments after we, wore it for a while. But I don't particularly want people making suggestions every 2 months.
I think it should be a yearly review of the bylaws, right?
Right. So absent an emergency, if someone wants to look at a change in the bylaws, that's fine. Make it always in December or something. I think that's fine.
I agree. I think that's a good goal. What do you think, Jennifer?
That makes sense to me. I think it's, if there's emergency, sure, but this can't be something that every month we're tweaking.
I think it would make everybody crazy, not just us.
Yeah.
That said, I will start compiling a list of suggestions that I am aware of. If either of you are aware of potential tweaks to the bylaws, again, please send them to Mara and she'll get them to me. And I'll let Addie know about it. And I guess we'll announce that at the commission meeting that if anybody else sees potential need for updates, they can let Mara know about it, and we'll start working on that. Anybody else have any new business? Well, one thing about not having many people at the committee meeting means it goes faster, so I'll see you all at the commission meeting. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Goodbye.